Hello, everybody, and welcome back in another post-game show here at the Hockey Raiders YouTube channel, covering the Stanley Cup Final here. Game 2, Colorado Avalanche go and basically destroy the Tampa Bay Lightning, and that's an understatement. Destroy the Lightning 7-0. Outplayed them all game long. Didn't look very good throughout. We'll talk about that for sure. And the Avalanche just looked like all world, dominated them from start to finish. Again, joined in by Kerry Collins, covers the Avalanche. Jim Bay covers the Tampa Bay Lightning. We'll start with you, Jim. Are you the only one that showed up for the Lightning in this game? What did you think about game 2?
I didn't think much of it. The first word that comes to my mind was pathetic. It was pathetic execution, pathetic effort. And you got to give credit to Colorado. Look, this is nothing, about them. Colorado played great. They've outplayed them for 2 games. They look great. We're going to go all into that. But if you've watched Tampa Bay this year in the playoffs or anything, this is not the Tampa Bay Lightning that we've seen this year. A little bit in the regular season. These playoffs, in the previous playoffs, they just do not look good. Part of that's the Avalanche, but part of that is Tampa Bay. They're not doing the little things. They're making really poor decisions with what to do with the puck, where their positioning is supposed to be. And it started at the very beginning of the game when McDonough took that first penalty. There was no need for that.
Mm-hmm.
He was frustrated. Yes. Oh, here we go. We turned the puck over again. Colorado was doing a great job of pressuring Tampa Bay's defensemen, and they're saying, we think we can make you cough it up. And guess what? So far, after 2 games, they have. And they take that penalty, and it's all downhill, so quickly for Tampa Bay after that. But again, the disheartening thing is that, and it's hard to say lack of effort because I'm not there. I'm not in the locker room. We can't say what it is, but there's definitely they're not working hard. Mm-hmm. Colorado is definitely outworking them. They're beating them to pucks. They're beating to the corners, beating them to where they're supposed to be. And that's very disappointing to see from this Tampa Bay team. And consequently, when you run up against a team like Colorado, boom, you're going to lose 7-0.
Yeah, this is definitely what happened in this game. It looked like they were playing an AHL team and out of their league, and that's not how we've seen the Lightning throughout. They've had times throughout this playoffs that they haven't looked good, but there are times in the game where you're like, okay, maybe they can look like the team that could come back. This game was nothing like that at all. So, Kerry, let's talk about the Colorado Avalanche.
Just insulted an AHL team, by the way. So that's not even
that's not even right.
I wouldn't even go. And no offense to you beer leaguers out there, but I was thinking they look like a beer league team. Sorry.
Yeah, that's maybe a little worse too. I mean, AHL team probably could have done a bit better. So, Kerry, what do you think about the Avalanche performance? I mean, obviously 7-0. Nichushkin gets another 2 goals. Burakovsky, he left the game, but got another assist. Makar, 2 goals. I mean, it was just pure dominance by the Avalanche. What do you think about their game in game 2?
Yeah, I mean, just from start to finish, we were talking a little bit before we started the podcast, and it was just like every single thing was working. They couldn't figure out the forecheck that Colorado was throwing at them. They couldn't get it out of their zone. It seemed like everything Colorado threw at the net was going in or was close. I mean, you look at this box score, 30 shots on goal is the fewest shots they've had on goal in this entire playoffs. And the problem is they stopped only 23 of them, and it's like, I don't know. I mean, if somebody would have told me after that first round where they had a 7-2 and a 7-3 win, nope, they're going to have one more. There's going to be another game where they're a little bit more dominant. I would never have believed it in a million years. But, I mean, this was like tape to tape, just like imposing their will on that team. And I mean, I just don't, I agree with Jim. I don't know what's going on with, Tampa Bay. It just seems like they are not the same team that they were, especially those last four. You talk about the last couple of years, they aren't even close to the same team that they were in those last 4 games against New York. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with Colorado. These teams only see each other a couple of times a year, but they haven't really played that much, especially during the pandemic. But geez, it just seems like they are just unprepared for that speed, and they don't know what to do. It's causing them to take unnecessary penalties, like that McDonough one that's so early to give up a power play. And it's like, you have that, they're making these mistakes. It's turning into like giveaways. They're all trying to do way too much. And it just seems like Colorado has got them so far out of their game that, the result's 7-0. It just kind of surprised me.
Yeah. Well, they looked like the faster team, even in game 1. They looked like the quicker team. They're quicker to pucks. They were a lot of rush chances. It's really looking like they're going downhill, and every time Tampa Bay goes, it looks like they're going uphill. So it's been really, it's been a dominant performance by Colorado in the first 2 games. Jim, I want to ask you about Andrei Vasilevskiy. We hyped this series up as being a goaltending battle that's going to be won by Tampa Bay. Looking far from that. He's now allowed 11 goals in 2 games. Should Lightning fans be worried about Vasilevskiy now after 2 games, or will he bounce back?
I'm not too sure worried about him. There was some goals that he gave up that you think, he could have, the 2-on-1s where they shot on the blocker side, attacking what New York did. That's a little worrisome. They're just not playing well in front of them. Look, you could have, the reincarnation of Tony Esposito or any great goaltender that you want back there and put them all back there. It's not going to make any difference. Colorado's just getting too many chances, and consequently, Kemper's doing what he's supposed to do. And what, Tampa was hoping would happen is Colorado's not giving Tampa good looks. So, Kemper's making the saves when he needs them and is doing a really good job. And again, it's all in front of Vasilevskiy. He usually bounces back pretty well. He apparently, from, what we hear and everything and what we read, he gets really upset after losses, and now this one's really bad. This might have been his worst. So it'll be curious to see how he bounces back. He could get really down at this point, or, he and hopefully the rest of the Lightning will come back and say, look, we got to strap it up and, make better efforts all the way around the ice.
Now, the question, did Cooper leave him in there so that he could get more angry? That he could have been taken out of after the second period.
Yeah, you go back and forth. I don't, and they talked about on the broadcast a little bit, and you go back and forth, why leave him in? But part of it is that, keeping him and the team in here and says, this is what we're going with. And, we're all in this together. They've always tried to work to have each other's backs. I think it's a little bit of that. If I have, and far be it from me to criticize Cooper for anything, I think if anything is going to play out with decisions on Vasilevskiy, it's the ones that Cooper made during the regular season about having him play so much. He played, pretty much a very large load, for coming from 3 playoff loads. And I'm going like, put Elliott in every once in a while more. And I know they say they do things like, give them rest in practices and maintenance days and stuff like that. But, that would be the biggest worry. I think, as far as Monday night, it's going to be a team thing, and he'll be a big part of that.
Yeah, we'll see what happens there. Kerry, on Avalanche side, McKinnon had a point in this game. The Stars largely haven't been the ones doing the scoring in the first 2 games. It's been their depth. And we said this in the preview too, that this is going to be a battle of depth. Right now, it's the Avalanche winning that by a landslide. All their goals are coming from their secondary guys. Add the defenseman in there. That's secondary too. Makar's got a couple. Nichushkin has what? He got three in the first 2 games now. Is this going to be, are we starting to see this theme kind of play out that the Avalanche just have better depth?
Yeah, I think they've just got, especially right now, it looks like they've got a lot more going. And, when you look at, they're getting goals from Darren Helm, and
yeah,
he's out there to set the tone physically. Clearly, I think he's got more than 20 hits in in this series, and he had 6 hits in the first period tonight. And, he gets a goal. Burakovsky scores again. Nichushkin gets a couple. Now Rantanen gets the 3 assists, but that's a big name guy. But the people that are putting it in the back of the net outside of Makar, those are guys that aren't, they're not 50 goal scorers or anything. Nichushkin's had a great year though, and he's had a great playoffs. Rantanen's been really good the last series. He was awesome. He's been really good in the first 2 games here, but it just seems like every time they're out there, whether it is Gabriel Landeskog and Nathan McKinnon, or it's Logan O'Connor and Alex Newhook, they look like they got a chance to score. And that's not something I think a lot of people expected to see in this series. And it's just from Colorado's standpoint, they got to be so confident, because you look at, the minutes and stuff, those guys outside of Burakovsky who left, but everybody played more in those bottom 6, like those bottom 2 lines, and everybody was playing more minutes. So I just think he's, especially after this, a guy like Jared Bednar's got to be super stoked and super comfortable knowing whichever line he sends out there. He was even switching up some of the combinations sometimes in that second period in particular, but it's like, even when he's switching it up, he's just super confident in anybody that's out there, because it seems like they've all got a chance to score.
Yeah. Jim, on the depth side for the Lightning, talk about not having their depth scoring, their main guys aren't scoring either, but what needs to happen for them to actually match this? Because the Avalanche are just, like I say before, firing everything, and they can throw at any line and seem to have chances to score. How are the Lightning going to actually change this up going back home? Because they're down 2-0. They've been in this position before, but do you see any kind of light that they could maybe match this in the future?
Very little. After tonight, it would look bleak. We do know that even though, Colorado looks like they're better than the Rangers, we saw, Tampa Bay come back after being down 2-0. They get to go home. They get the last, matchup, which could be helpful, because then, Cooper can put out Stamkos and his line whenever he wants to, and maybe get a better matchup. Obviously, as Kerry pointed out earlier, Colorado's getting a ton of shots and Tampa Bay's hardly getting any. I think, to me, Tampa Bay needs to put more shots on goal. It doesn't seem like, even though they're not getting chances, it seems like they're trying to be, it's almost like they're still playing Shesterkin, and they're they have to think they have to make that perfect play. They've got to get shots on goal. They have to really look for rebounds. When they've had their few little chances tonight, there were shots on goal. There were the guys like Point and Perry in front of the net doing what they do best. And if they're going to get back and do that, that's what they need to do. They need to frustrate Colorado somehow. And I think that frustration, the easiest way to frustrate them will start in their own goal.
Yeah, there's not much that's really putting doubt in their mind right now. And full credit to Colorado. They're doing what they need to do, and they may end up as being the better team. In their, and this is without Nazem Kadri too. With him, I don't know how much more this could have gotten worse, right? So Kerry, there's not much that Colorado has to do differently. They're going on the road. The matchups won't be different, but that doesn't seem to matter with the depth they have. What do you think the next game will be like for Colorado on the road? in a different atmosphere than, I mean, a raucous Ball Arena, which, I mean, the fans have been awesome so far in these two games. So what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Colorado, they haven't lost on the road yet, you know, in the whole playoffs. And I don't know that everything's just firing. I mean, I don't know how much better they can get, you know, than a performance like this. And, you know, just touching on the lack of offense for Tampa Bay. I mean, if you look even strength in this game, Darcy Kemper had to make 7 saves. And I mean, there was a couple of 4-on-4s. I think there were 7 power plays between the two teams. You're still talking 45 minutes of even strength, you know, probably 5-on-5 in those 4-on-4s, and you manage 7 shots. You're never going to win, like whether Colorado scores 7 or not. And I mean, they needed to score 2, and they would have been comfortably ahead in the third period. And as long as they're doing that, I mean, the forecheck has just been so demoralizing, it seems like, for Tampa Bay. Like, Colorado's forecheck has just been everywhere, and it's everyone, and it just never stops. I mean, Ryan McDonough pinches one time in that first period and it turns into a goal. And it's just like, you know, they're just gone, you know, they're just going as soon as that puck is going, you know, they're out there. And I mean, if they can keep that up, it's going to be harder because the last change has proven to be pretty, you know, significant in the playoffs as far as getting your guys. I mean, you look at Stamkos and Kucherov, I think they had 1 shot between them tonight, 1 or 2 shots, and that's not going to happen. They're going to get more now that they're in Tampa Bay, but it just seems like this is a runaway train right now for Colorado.
Yeah, and the Lightning aren't doing much on their special teams either. I mean, they're not scoring on the power play, and they can't kill a penalty either. So, I mean, there's not much you can take I mean, you want to take some positives out of these first 2 games. I don't know what the Lightning can kind of take from it going into game 3, but we will see. Just
have to. I just think they have to take this, you know, get on the plane, take this game, and throw it out to say, okay, it's 1 game. You know, we're down 2-0. We wanted to win 1 in Colorado. You can't look at it as, holy crap, we just got demolished, even though that's in the back of everybody's head. But you just have to say, hey, this is 1 game, and as long as they can treat it like that, they know they've come back from down 2-0 before. As long as they're looking at the series 2-0, that's the number they're looking at instead of 7-0, you know, and outshot 30-16 or whatever it was. As long as they're looking at it that way, you know, this team still has 2 Stanley Cups in the last 2 years. So, you know, you can't count them out. It just seems like, you know, in this round, they were definitely, you know, on the ropes.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, it's kind of hard to look at it right now. The Lightning could have any chance of coming back, but we will see in game 3 if this continues as a theme. We're talking about it after game 3. I think the Lightning are pretty much done. So we'll see. We'll see what happens after game 3 and going to Tampa Bay. And but right now it looks like Colorado has this series, and there's not much that you can say anything about that otherwise. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Thanks, Kerry. Thanks, Jim, for coming on another post game show. Make sure you're checking out all the content on thehockeywriters.com for the Stanley Cup Final, for the 2022 draft coming up, which is now less than a little over 2 weeks away. So that's coming up fast. Just after the Stanley Cup Final is over, we're going to be right into draft stuff. So that's going to be fun. Make sure to check out hockeywriters.com and the QR code that's on the screen right now. And we will see you next time after game 3.